Someone wiser than I once said, fighting crime by building prisons is like fighting cancer by building cemeteries. But from 2004 through 2015, Stephen Harper's government spent $500 million a year building prisons through various tough-on-crime omnibus bills, even though Canada's crime rate was the lowest it had been in more than 20 years. And he continued building prisons even after policy planners in the more progressive parts of the United States shared stats with his government showing that states that focused on rehabilitation that wasn't overly punitive had a lower recidivism rate, while states like Texas that actually have the death penalty have higher violent crime rates. It's almost as if extreme punishment meant that when things started getting out of hand during a crime, the perp had no reason to show restraint. And by using facts to guide policy, Canada's crime rate has been trending down for almost 40 years. I say almost because, again, it upticked a bit during the Harper era with the so-called tough-on-crime bills. And while I sometimes think knee-jerk conservatives would approve smog if clean air was a liberal policy, which it kind of is when they rejected climate change as even a thing that was happening, they seem to froth at the mouth at the mere word liberal. And while any other party makes decisions on the basis of fact and what is best for their nation, conservatives both north and south of the 49th parallel bully through counterproductive policies and often harmful laws in the legislative equivalent of Charles Manson assisting in a heart surgery by making every decision in policy not because it's smart, but because it's the exact opposite of what liberals would do. And too often, their plans are made regardless of cost, impact, or the fact liberal democratic policy is quite easily the better, smarter, and more popular choice. Which is why, despite running on platforms promoting smaller government, every conservative government is always larger than what preceded it. Their spending is always greater. Their waste of money on slush projects that only transfer wealth to their rich donors is always higher. And a greater percentage of cronies get untendered government contracts at rates that are actually criminal, proven by investigations, despite all claims that their opposition is the one that's more corrupt. And because moderates focus on governing instead of cheap theatrics, because they don't waste time trying to turn every nothing burger into Watergate, it's also why people believe neocon lies about liberal Democrats. They're perpetrated and repeated often, and they seem to do so without opposition. Thankfully, when the voting comes, the electorate almost overwhelmingly rejects blind stupidity, while conservatives continue to double down on it. Speaking of neocon counterlogic, the end of reason started when Fox News began broadcasting on this day in 1996. It's also Bathtub Day, Frappe Day, Team Margot Stemcell, and Bone Marrow Awareness Day. That's a long one. And Bring Your Bible to School Day. Bring Your Bible to School Day is further proof how screwed up America is, because that's an only in America problem. Only. And that's today's Duza Bear Digest. See you tomorrow.